Welcome to Legends in Leadership, brought to you by ISF and the Carrington Group. Legends in Leadership is an inspirational podcast featuring the stories of leaders who are making a difference. Our goal is to inspire you with the stories of leaders who come from humble beginnings, overcome challenges, and ultimately rise up to make a difference in people's lives.
Hello, folks. Good morning. This is Kyle Watkins, Family Officer, Carrington Group. Joined today on the podcast with Executive Director of ISF, Dr. Blair Ritchie, and my partners at the Carrington Group, Tyler Tallman and Jason Smith. How are you guys doing?
Good to be here.
Doing well.
Good. Guys, I think we've got a great show lined up. Some good stuff to dive into before we jump on that train, though. Dr. Ritchie, you got us something good, something Samuel Gompers again, or where are we going here?
Well, you're just proud you got that one.
That's right.
Well, you know, this trivia thing is trying to kind of connect this thing to a little Texas history today. So we'll throw a little softball to you guys here, see if you can knock it out of the park. Today's legendary leader is one of the great Texans whose imprint can be found all over West Texas. Born in the small town of Crafton, he was 13 when his mother died, and he launched out on his own, something you just ought to do at 13, right? Became one of the chicken and bread boys, selling sandwiches during the Great Depression. The chicken in the sandwich was probably wild rabbit meat, but that's how you make a living in the Great Depression. He personified the stereotype of a Texas cowboy, an uninhibited storyteller, gambler, drinker, generous with his money, and quick to draw his six-shooters. He mastered the art of selling and was the genius behind the largest newspaper in West Texas, the oldest radio station in the West, and the first TV station. He was instrumental in the founding of Texas Tech University, serving as its first chairman of the board. His influence in the business community was felt in oil and gas as well as the aircraft industries. He even has a mountain peak named after him in the Big Bend National Park. So who is this legendary Texas leader? I'll be back at the close of the program with the answer.
Well,
to that one.
we may not know it, but our guest better know it.
I hope. Yeah. And does that come with a pickle on that chicken sandwich, on the rabbit sandwich? Do we know?
that's you have to pay extra for that.
That was gourmet.
Yeah.
Well, our guest today is Austin Pennington. He's a trial lawyer who handles a variety of civil and criminal cases. He founded the Pennington firm 5 years ago at the age of 27 and now supports a team of 4 professionals serving hundreds of clients. Outside of law, Austin is the chairman of the Texas Tech Alumni Association's scholarship program based here in Dallas called the Quarterly Business Briefing. Every year, Austin spearheads a fundraising and sponsorship effort focused on raising scholarship funds for Dallas County high school seniors planning on attending Texas Tech. The organization has raised over $400,000 since its inception. Austin also works with his college fraternity's national organization to develop programming and coaching focused on training young college men in leadership skills for their collegiate and professional lives. Very interesting, Austin. Hey, glad to have you here this morning and hope you're doing well.
Absolutely. Glad to be here with you guys.
Well, we like to start off with our guests kind of share a little bit about your journey, what's led you here, maybe an individual or an event that's helped shape your life and put you on this trajectory.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Rockwall, Texas, real close to here, played football in high school, actually walked on under Coach Leach at Texas Tech for a very, very brief time. You never see me on a roster or anything like that. I was definitely a practice squad scrub, so don't read too much into that. But I would say probably my experience with my fraternity at Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. So
what fraternity?
It was Alpha Tau Omega.
Okay.
And we had a group of 19 guys back in 2006.
Okay.
Decided we wanted to start our own fraternity chapter. And kind of went through that whole process. It took about a year to get it all put together. And the part about that I think really shaped me is I got to see how you could take on a leadership role with other individuals who are part of your team who are looking to you to lead, and you can really make something great out of that. And one of the things I preach all the time, I still go back and talk to our local chapter a lot, and one of the best things that I think our fraternity chapter gave, which is what I learned going through the process, is that you can be around other men and women, but in our fraternity, obviously, it was just men. But you can be around other individuals who are positive, and you can both positively influence them, and then you can benefit from the positivity and the impact they're going to have on your lives. And so seeing all of that really shaped my perspective on surrounding yourself with individuals who you can impact positively and who are also going to really help you out too.
What's it like, I mean, starting something like that, but leading a group of peers in college? I mean, I imagine that's a fairly difficult to manage a lot of the, I don't know, maybe ego or disorganization, but maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Well, the reality is that fraternities get a bad rap. So as a
Big
former
time.
fraternity president, I admire the work that it has to go in to charter a brand new chapter. So what'd you learn from that?
Well, I'll kind of step to address what you were saying a second ago. I'm still really involved with the national chapter, and I tell people all the time, we're in the business of trying to control 18 to 22-year-old males in college without supervision.
Right.
So the chaos and the insanity that comes with that, you guys can just imagine the type of stories we hear. But what's awesome about it is that even with all of the negativity that comes with the fraternity stereotype, we've really been able to take that stereotype and flip it on its head for people who will actually listen to us. And if you look at Greek life across the country, they're responsible for the most community service hours. They're in college at least, responsible for the most amount of dollars raised for philanthropies. And so being able to, in spite of all of that adversity and that negativity, actually produce something that's positive is a really cool feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It is cool. Talk about the program you developed for seniors coming out of high school. How did all that come about and evolve?
Okay. Well, and I didn't develop the program. A guy named Heath Cheek, who's another lawyer here in town, had a vision 10 years ago that we have a lot of Texas Tech alum here in the Dallas community or in DFW, and we've got a lot of really successful alumni here. What if we combined all of this and all this money and power and just influence and put together something where we could raise money for Texas Tech in some way, shape, or form? And I thought it was really awesome that they had the vision, or Heath had the vision, that we were going to put this right here in the center of our community and benefit Dallas County high school kids. And so what we do is we've got these 4 luncheons we host every year. Actually, our Q3 luncheon is next Tuesday, and we sell sponsorships. So our sponsors come in, they buy sponsorships, it gets them a seat at the table, it gets them some marketing with our marketing material, and all of the money goes into our endowment fund, which helps fund these scholarships that we give out to these young kids.
It's really cool.
How are these kids selected
Right.
by your group?
Right. So what's cool is we've got the quarterly business briefing committee, which I'm the chairman of, which is a part of our bigger Dallas chapter of the Texas Tech Alumni Association. And so we raise the money, we put on the events, and then our executive board, which is made up of Dallas area alums, they go through and they review these scholarship applications. So the application goes live in, I believe it's early April. Actually, excuse me, I think it's even earlier than that. And it goes out to all the high school counselors around DFW, or around Dallas, excuse me. And then they apply, and our committee goes through and they decide who the eligible people are. And the cool thing about it is that we haven't made it a 100% needs-based or 100% achievement-based scholarship. And so every year we end up with a good mixture of kids who are first-generation college students, or are not first generation but have just excelled beyond belief in their high school endeavors. And so I think it's cool because it's not just a one-size scholarship. It's really trying to recognize kids who have achieved greatness in one way or another.
And I really love that, because at ISF, we're a scholarship agency, and the students who receive our scholarship are foster care kids who
Right.
age out of the foster care system. Great story. The young man I'm mentoring now is a graduate of Texas Tech.
There we go.
Graduated of Texas Tech, yeah, and just felt like he wanted to go on and get his doctorate. And so at ISF, one of the neat things about our scholarship program is it's an undergraduate you start, but if you go on to grad school, you can stay in the program and stay scholarship. So I'm currently mentoring him. He's at the University of Cincinnati in a PhD program in clinical psych, and but he was a foster care kid in South Texas, and ended up at Tech and got his degree, and he's just hitting a home run for his academic career, and we're just honored to partner with these kids. I love that about what you said. Talk a little bit about how that idea of giving back and investing in young people in particular seems to be part of your DNA. Where'd that come from?
I think it came probably from my dad. So my dad grew up real humble beginnings and didn't really have a great home life. but he had some high school football coaches and some other male influences in his life, father figures that he didn't have, that really invested in him and allowed him to be successful, put himself through college, and so on and so forth. And I'm sure that's probably where it started with me. And then going through and playing high school sports, I mean, football was just everything to me when I was growing up and when I was in high school. Then catapulting that into the fraternity and seeing that mentorship that happens there. For me, there's never a more direct way that you can have an influence on a person than if you're one-on-one with them, trying to teach them life skills, leadership skills, or like you were kind of mentioning, just providing a companionship that they don't actually have. I think that's the most direct way you can have an impact on somebody. And so that's why I've sought out these opportunities that put me in a position to be able to try and give that to someone.
Austin, you're a pretty well-rounded guy. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your appearance on Dallas's Most Eligible Bachelor?
D Magazine. Now that was 3 years ago, so things have changed a little bit. But yeah, we made a little splash there with the Pennington firm, and I guess its founder being featured on D Magazine's Most Eligible list.
Yeah, you didn't find the love of your life there, huh?
I didn't. I did not get a rose as the TV show goes. Okay. So that hasn't happened yet. But no, that was kind of fun. There was a writer for D Magazine that reached out to me, and I honestly said, look, if I can promote my firm, I'd be happy to jump in and help you guys with a story. And it was fun. Our office had a lot of fun with it, too.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up?
Rockwall, Texas.
Rockwall, Texas. And you played high school football?
I did.
Yeah. What position?
I was a center, actually. So I was quite
I
a bit
would
bigger.
not guess that.
Yeah. Most people don't. Most people
Tight
don't.
end build, almost.
Right. Yeah, I was quite a bit bigger back then. And then at Tech, I walked on as a deep snapper, so special teams. But yeah, we were a 5A school, but we weren't very big as far as our offensive line was concerned.
So when did you figure out that law and being a lawyer was going to be the track that you were going to follow in life?
So when I was a kid, my dad, I grew up, he was selling law books to lawyers. And so he planted the seed in my brain. And, as a kid, you kind of, I'll be a lawyer, whatever. And as I got older, started really looking into what being a lawyer was like, I realized it was something that I was really going to be passionate about. It's extremely competitive, which is in my DNA as well. And you also get to help people solve problems. And so a lot of people don't look at lawyers as leaders or as fulfilling a leadership role. But to me, that's, again, you're having a direct one-on-one connection with someone, and they've got a problem that they don't know how to fix. They don't have a law degree. They don't understand the law. They don't have a law license, whatever it is, And so they come to you and they say, hey, here's this problem. What can I do? And with the areas of law we practice, I've historically done a lot of criminal defense, and we currently do a lot of family law. You're talking to people who sometimes this is one of the biggest problems they have or will ever face in their life. Mm-hmm. And so being able to be that person that can help them get through that and get a resolution, it's really inspiring to me.
So what'd you learn? It's always interesting to hear criminal defense stories. So any stories that stick out or anything that you learned from that side of the industry that's led you over on the corporate and real estate side now?
Well, so I think that probably the best thing I can say, and without getting too political on this show or anything, but I've seen a lot of shortcomings in our legal system, and that's in family law and criminal defense, and there's plenty of others too. But probably on the criminal defense side, the thing I'm most passionate about is I think we've got a systematic failure with how the plea bargain system works when people are accused of a crime. And without going into crazy detail about it, it just creates a lot of problems and creates, you guys have probably heard the cliche, someone who gets in the system and just can't get out. Mm-hmm. And so seeing a lot of that, it's shaped how I approach different problems that we face. And really it's helped me keep an open mind about certain things, because a lot of people who don't know much about the system, the thought is, and this is something we fight with juries all the time, is that, well, if you hadn't done anything wrong, you wouldn't be sitting in the chair. That's just not the case a lot of times. And so I think what it's helped me do in these other areas of law is keep an open mind about everything, see both sides, really figure out what's going on, and then be able to attack the problem from there.
I'll take Austin off the hook. If anybody wants more information about that, they can listen to a podcast called Serial Season 3 that'll depict that very well. Very interesting. Gentlemen, would love to hear more about how you started your own law firm, and just it takes guts to go out
at 27
years old and start a law firm in a pretty competitive environment. So talk to us about that journey a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So my undergrad degree was in finance. I got my MBA while I was at Tech. I did all that because I knew eventually I wanted to run my own shop. I just knew that was there. Didn't really know when that was going to be. Definitely didn't think it was going to be at 27. That wasn't the plan coming out by any means. But I was at a crossroads at that age, and I was leaving a firm that I wasn't happy where I was at. Nothing against the firm, but just wasn't my thing at that point. And as I was kind of looking at everything, I thought, well, 27 years old, I'm not married, I don't have anybody depending on me for any kind of source of income, so why not now? Let's just jump out there, let's crank it out. I had found my first 2 jobs out of law school by leveraging my personal relationships and knowing people who then I got to know the people they knew, and then just so on and so forth. And that's what I figured, or that was my plan for starting my own firm. And luckily, it's worked so far. The other thought was, look, I can eat rice and beans for as long as I need and sleep on couches and live pretty lean at 27. And so let's get this thing started so that maybe by the time I'm 32, there's a little momentum behind it.
Yeah. What are some things that you may have learned about yourself during the past 5 years, going through that process?
I'm not a gambler, but I learned to have a pretty good poker face.
Yeah.
So, I've talked to groups of ATOs at some national conventions about starting your own business and the struggles and all of that. And there's times, and our clients would have never known it, and our team never knew it, but there's times where I was afraid we weren't going to make payroll the next week. We had to go get out there and collect some money, or we're going to be short. But you don't show that. You stay strong. You're the leader of the firm. The rest of the team is going to follow you, and so when you have those hard times, you just gotta be tough and take it. The flip side of that is that whenever you have great times, you can't just go wheels off and just celebrate and do whatever. I mean, you gotta be happy, celebrate successes, but keep moving forward, keep pushing. And as we have this saying in Alpha Tau Omega, as the president goes, so goes the chapter. I wrote this down in my office. It says, as the leader goes, so goes the firm, because everybody's going to react to what you do and how you lead. And so if you let yourself go on that roller coaster as well, your entire team's going to do that too.
So how do you attract key team members? What is it that you're looking for in them as a leader to join the culture that you've established?
Culture, I'm glad you used that word. That's the number one thing we look for at our firm. We've got a very laid back, relaxed culture. We're very supportive, very open and transparent. Part of the reason I wanted to start my own firm is because I didn't really fit into the building blocks of corporate America. Just wasn't my thing. And so I wanted to build something that allowed everyone to come to work, feel like they're part of a team, and not dread being there. And so a lot of what we look for is, are you going to take yourself too seriously? Because if you are, you're probably going to get offended by some of the jokes and how laid back I get in the office, as well as the rest of our team. And are you self-motivated? That's a big part of it too, because along with that relaxed environment, I don't like to micromanage. I don't like to look over people's shoulders, because I hated that whenever I was coming up, learning to be a lawyer. And so the flip side of that is that if you're going to be successful at our firm, I don't want to have to look over your shoulder, so you're going to have to be the one to really self-start.
Right.
Young leaders out there thinking about starting a new business, thinking about taking the lead, thinking about taking that risk. What are 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would give them in the beginning of their leadership journey that you've learned over the last 5 years?
Well, and I'm going to copy, or I'm going to plagiarize this a little bit, because it's advice that I was given whenever I was coming out, and that actually leads me to the first piece, is that talk to others who have done it. There were plenty of people that in different industries that I talked to about starting my own company, and the advice that I received from them, to this day, I can't put a price tag on how valuable that was. And that's why today, anybody that is wanting to start their own business, if someone ever reaches out to me, or I get connected to them through someone, they say, hey, they're thinking of starting their own whatever, I always say yes, because I always say yes to meet with them, because it was just so helpful to have that advice. And you learn so much about the struggles that you're going to encounter, the problems you're going to run into, and just some of the strategies you can employ. So that's the number one thing I would say is talk to other people, and don't wait till everything is perfect. And that's a piece of advice I got from a lawyer in Fort Worth. We were talking about starting my own firm, and he said, look, it's never the perfect time to have kids. It's never the perfect time to get married. It's never the perfect time to start your own company. If you decide you want to do it, pull the trigger. There's a lot of rules that are out there that are societal rules or law firm rules that say, well, you need 6 or 8 years of experience, or you need a couple clients to bring with you. Like I tell people, I had 2.5 years experience. I had a pickup truck and a laptop, and that was it. That's what we started with, and it's worked out just fine. And so don't second guess. If you decide you want to do it, don't sit back and think, well, I got to wait till this, or this needs to happen first. Make a plan and go for it.
It's really good stuff. So if somebody was trying to make a decision as to, good legal counsel, why select your firm? Why the Pennington Group?
So we started this firm with a vision to really try to develop a relationship with our clients. I'd had too many experiences where my client was a name in an email inbox, and that was the extent of my knowledge of the person. We really develop a relationship, and on the family law side, it's pretty obvious why that's important, because it's such an emotional situation. On the criminal defense side, same thing. You're dealing with someone's liberty. When you're dealing with personal injury cases, people have been horribly hurt. They're coming to you for help. But even on the business litigation side, for us, we develop these relationships, and I'm not just your lawyer. Now I understand your business model. I understand what you're trying to achieve. And instead of law becoming just another line item on the expense report, now it's actually a strategy that we can employ to help you be more successful in your business and make sure that we're making moves that make sense on that. And so I think we really dive in with our clients more than other firms do.
So you're certainly working with folks then that aren't going to go the online legal advice route. But I'm curious, in the big picture, how do you see sort of this internet, much less personal model affecting the industry as a whole?
I think there's a lot of positives that can come from it. I think there's sectors of our industry that can be manipulated or changed in a way that's streamlined and saves money. One of the things that I'll tell you we're looking at right now is how we can potentially use an online platform to help family law cases become more streamlined, because family law comes in all shapes and sizes. One of the dangers that I see is that when you go to LegalZoom or you go to these other sites that are providing legal services directly to clients, it's a very cookie cutter format. Right. And the law is just not cookie cutter. I mean, every day we see stuff that's just a little bit different, or sometimes greatly different than the cases we saw the day before. And so that's a danger I see. And I think we're going to see two things. We're going to see a lot of people have some fallout from using some of these online databases, and there's going to be lawyers like myself that have to come back and clean it up. Right. But I think we're also going to see that when that happens, people don't want to just go back to the big law firm and the big ivory tower, high dollar firm and use them. We're going to see a lot more of these small law firms like ours that are going to have success because they can provide kind of what we've been talking about here, a more personal experience when you're dealing with your lawyer.
So when that online will that was created, when that person does pass and it is a mess, that's really where you're going to find out the quality of the work that was done, and be able to, I guess, learn from what positives could have come from that type of efficiency, but also see where the gaps are.
Absolutely, because when you're dealing with a will or you're dealing with articles of incorporation for a company, you don't find out whether those are good or bad until someone starts fighting about it.
Right.
That's when it starts to get picked apart. That's whenever you start to figure out, oh, that's why I could have got that advice and maybe things would have gone a little bit different. And so your homework doesn't get graded till later. And so that's why I think there's going to be a little bit of a time delay to where we really start seeing, okay, is this stuff good or is it not good?
Yeah.
Austin, how do you sharpen your saw? Is it podcast, book you recommend? Are you a big reader? How do you keep yourself sharp?
Honestly, I'm a very person-to-person type of guy, and so sitting down and just hearing people's stories and talking to them about what they've gone through, to me, is how I've learned the most through my career and my personal life so far. Because no matter what type of industry or what type of work someone's in, I always think that people's stories are just extremely intriguing, and I really do believe you can learn from everybody you come into contact with. It's actually something that my dad taught my brother and I, is that being able to go into the high school and talk to the janitor and hear his story and where he came from, you might learn just as much as if you go talk to the Fortune 500 CEO and hear about him or her and where they came from. Yeah. And so people, to me, that old adage, iron sharpens iron, I just think you really learn a lot if you sit down and really listen to people.
It's awesome.
Really, really good stuff.
So if somebody's wanting to find you, what are the different ways that people can get in touch with you?
So definitely. So we put a lot out on Instagram right now. So you can follow us at The Dallas Lawyer. Okay. And then on Twitter, we are The Dallas Law. Our website, we've got a lot of blogs up going and talking about content, and we're at pfdallas.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you, Austin. That was great.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, Dr. Ritchie, what you got for us?
All right, guys, who's the West Texas leader?
We have to let our guests.
Does our guest have a guess?
I've got two in mind, but I'm going to go with Preston Smith.
Oh, who's the other one?
Who's the other one?
Will Rogers.
We had Will Rogers a while back.
Okay.
So we already covered Will.
Okay.
What's really interesting about our true answer is he's out of Texas Tech. This is a part of the history that doesn't get talked about as much. Who was your first board of directors chairman? You guys at TCU would probably
This
know.
This is a part of the Carter family. Amon.
Amon, who was born Giles Amon Carter.
Giles Amon Carter. Yeah.
And he changed his name. Now it's Amon G. Carter.
Oh,
Stadium.
Good move.
yeah.
A mountain peak and a little Texas Tech history there.
Okay.
for
I
you.
like
All
that
right, there you go.
you threw the Texas Tech Red Raider for a loop on behalf of the Horned Frogs.
Yeah,
Thank you
that's
so
right.
much for that.
Man.
Really
Could have
appreciate
easily
that.
said the Fort Worth Stadium named after this man. And
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite quotes from Carter was that Fort Worth is where the West begins, and Dallas is where the East peters out. He had issues with Dallas.
Clearly.
Oh, everybody. I mean, I'll tell you, in the legal industry, sometimes I have to be careful when I cross the Trinity River to go over to court over there.
Yeah.
I remind them, hey, I'm wearing cowboy boots. I started in Fort Worth. Give me a little break here.
There you go.
Oh. Well, folks, that's a wrap for our podcast today. On behalf of the Carrington Group, ISF, and our special guest, Austin Pennington, this is Kyle Watkins wishing you a good day. And remember this, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader.
Legends in Leadership is brought to you by the Carrington Group. Carrington Group is a family office with a passion for helping business leaders and their families make smart choices and fulfill their highest aspirations. To learn more about the Carrington Group, visit their website at www.carringtonfo.com or Google Carrington Group Dallas, Texas. ISF is committed to leadership development for aged-out foster care and orphaned youth. ISF's mission is to transform these youth into tomorrow's leaders with scholarships, mentoring, and leadership training. To learn more about ISF, visit their website at isfsite.org or Google International Student Foundation to learn more.
Securities offered through Regulus Advisors, LLC, member FINRA/SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Regal Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors are affiliated entities. Carrington Group and this broadcast are independent of Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors.